Good evening. I have 7 o'clock, and I'm calling the meeting to order, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Present.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Here.
Ms. Emily Hamburg,
Here.
Mr. Tom Schmitz,
Present.
and Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have Father Andrew LeBenz from Church of the Resurrection to lead us in prayer. Father LeBenz. If you need a microphone, please do, because this is recorded and it doesn't show up. But you know all about that, right? Okay.
We'll begin in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, you have revealed your glory to all nations. God of power and might, wisdom and justice, through your authority is rightly administered, laws are enacted, and judgment is decreed. We pray for Mayor Benaj, all of our elected city officials, and all others who are entrusted to guard our political welfare. May they be enabled by your powerful protection to discharge their duties with honesty and ability. We likewise commend to your unbounded mercy all citizens of Bel Aire, that we may be blessed in the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of your holy law. May we be preserved in union and that peace which the world cannot give, and after enjoying the blessings of this life, be admitted to those which are eternal. We pray to you, who are Lord and God, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. This evening, we have tonight a presentation of colors by Scout Troop 585, and they will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will let them take charge. And yes, please speak in the microphone because it's recorded. And thank you.
Good evening. Your Troop 585 from here in Bel Aire, Kansas, based out of Church of the Resurrection. Thank you for having us today. Would everybody please rise? Color guard, advance. Scouts, salute. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, post the colors. At ease. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is agenda additions. I am, just so everybody knows, I'm going to pull items 11F, G, and H. As these are not ready for council consideration, we'll most likely see these on May 20th. That's F, G, and H. From there, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Everybody's marking their page. I'll give you a chance. Consent agenda contains the minutes of the April 15th regular city council meeting and the April 29th special city council meeting. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hamburg.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Ms. Hamburg, a second by Mr. David. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next is discussion approval of the appropriation ordinance, and this encompasses expenses from April 9th through April 29th and 2 payroll cycles. Expenditures amount to $2,379,971. Of the reported expenses, $373,995 are infrastructure costs for new developments, and these costs are paid through special assessments. Any questions or discussion about the appropriations ordinance? If there are none, I'll consider a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 25-08.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Schmitz. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. This evening, we have requested appearances with Mr. Luke Peter with PEC to provide us an update on the 2025 street maintenance project. And we're hearing some good things about this. So,
Yeah, thanks for having me. Here to give you an update on the 2025 street maintenance project, which I'm sure you've seen construction going on. Yeah, you have the packet in front of you. I'm going to be going through the slides real
yeah, they
quick.
gave us a packet.
Last time I was here, I think it was November, before everything had bid. So going to give you a quick update on, how everything bid and kind of what's happened as we got into construction. So if you remember, we had $1.9 million to work with for the budget. We split the project into two parts. We had the pavement marking refresh of many of the arterials in town. We'll come back to that, but that bid at $85,000. So we had around 1.8 remaining in the budget. Then the second part of the street maintenance plan for this year was a bunch of concrete repairs, asphalt repairs, and a bunch of mill and overlay in many of the neighborhoods in town. You've already seen these repair areas, but we were doing a lot of work in Lawn Terrace, the Pearsons neighborhood, Bel Aire Heights, north of 45th there. We added a few locations since I last spoke to you guys. Did some valley gutter repairs at Ashton and Hedgerow, I believe. That middle picture, doing some repairs on Edgemore at Edgemore and 39th Street. And doing some repairs to the shoulder on Webb, just north of that storage facility on Webb Road. So those got added since I last spoke to you guys in November. And then the second piece of that, and the biggest piece of all, was doing a bunch of mill and overlay in the neighborhoods throughout Bel Aire. So if you remember, we're going to bid it. The base bid, the area is in green, and then having add alternates in North Woodlawn and east of Woodlawn there in those two neighborhoods. If we got good bid prices, then we could do it all. And we did get good bid prices. So here's the total for all that work that we proposed, how it all bid. And that ended up coming to around $1.4 million, leaving us around $470,000 to kind of work with during construction. Because these kind of projects, especially with mill and overlay, you mill off the top 2 inches and it exposes some issues, which we'll get into. So having kind of that bucket of money to use during construction, we've used some of it, which we're going to go over here. I believe you've already approved the first change order, which is replacing these pipe culverts at Kruger. They had deteriorated and the pavement started collapsing because the pipe was collapsing, an old rusted corrugated metal pipe there. City put a temporary solution down. This happened after bidding, so we talked with APAC. They agreed to do the work. That additional work came to $92,000, leaving us $378,000 of our budget remaining. Here's kind of what it looks like during construction. So they tore out all the old pipes. The picture to the left there, and the picture to the right is what it looked like as of Friday when I was out there. So they got everything kind of prepared for the pipe. Just need to put the new pipe down and put the new pavement over top of it. So change order 2, with the mill and overlay, like I said earlier, when you mill off the top 2 inches of pavement, it can kind of expose some issues with the subgrade. So we ran into that at Stratford Lane and Stratford Court. So the area is shown to the right there. So north is up on the screen. So this is east of Woodlawn, south of 45th Street. Those areas highlighted in red. There was enough subgrade deterioration, enough soft spots throughout those areas that we determined we would recommend fully replacing that pavement. Initially, we were just doing a 2-inch mill and overlay, but again, there's enough soft spots throughout those areas that we'd propose doing full new asphalt, 6-inch asphalt on 5-inch crushed rock base. We ran into the same thing at 45th Street and Hillcrest. That entrance to that neighborhood of North Woodlawn, just south of 45th, that pavement was in quite bad shape. It was just like 3 or 4 inches of asphalt, basically on dirt. So initially we were just proposing doing a mill and overlay there, but we would recommend fully replacing that again with new 6-inch full depth pavement and 5-inch crushed rock base under it. So the total to do that, to swap out the mill and overlay with full reconstruction for those areas shown in red, came to $107,000. Also, there's still some overages kind of floating out there for the next change order, just curb where we've gone an additional 5 feet, just small things kind of add up. Again, it's still up in the air a little bit, but around $20,000. We're kind of locking down what those overages are going to be, but that kind of leaves us around $250,000 still left in our $1.9 million budget. So kind of what it looks like during construction, the milled surface over to the left there. We've been working through, talking to the public because it's not fun to drive on the milled surface. It's a bumpy ride. You got to drive slower, but APAC is moving really quickly. So we appreciate the public's patience with this project. And the reward is the, nice smooth surface, like pictured on the right there. And again, APAC's moving really quickly. Here is a map of kind of where we stand as of Friday. I just, before I came here, drove out and they've already completed some of the areas I've shown in yellow there under construction. So again, they're moving really quickly, but for the most part, they got most of Pearson's neighborhood all mill and overlaid. North Woodlawn's pretty much done. They've mill and overlaid a couple of the streets east of Woodlawn. Stratford Lane and Stratford Court, like I said, that needs full reconstruction. They still have that to do, as well as a couple of the other mill and overlay streets east of Woodlawn there. They haven't gotten to Lawn Terrace, at least with the mill and overlay. They've done all the repairs there, the curb repairs, and miscellaneous other repairs in Lawn Terrace. And they're currently working on that Kruger pipe crossing. But that'll be what they'll hit next with the mill and overlay. And then they still haven't fully reconstructed those cul-de-sacs in the Bel Aire Heights neighborhood, shown in red there, just north of 45th. They've done the curb repair in those cul-de-sacs, but still have to do the mill and overlay and reconstruction in those cul-de-sacs. So that's where we stand as of Friday with the pavement portion of the 2025 street maintenance plan. So I'm going to stop there and then we'll touch on the pavement marking project. Any questions, concerns, comments about any of the pavement improvements for the street
I
maintenance?
drove through a lot of that yesterday, and what's being done looks great. But I also drove down Perryton east of Woodlawn, and I'm concerned it's almost as bad as Stratford. Are we going to have to consider replacing all of that road too? There's a lot of soft in it.
I haven't. Have you driven out there? I'll take a look at it. I haven't been out there to see it, but yeah, I can certainly look at it and see if we can fit that in the budget
Talking about Perryton,
or if it needs it.
east of Woodlawn.
East of Woodlawn. And also, our original map, I don't think included Memphis east of Auburn, but this map does include it, which is, I think, is a good thing. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that
Just the
area.
difference in maps.
Yeah, that area we're doing full reconstruction there. So that's why it wasn't on the mill and overlay map. It's because that was getting fully replaced with
Okay.
new asphalt and crushed rock base. So yeah.
Okay. And I did see that Monday afternoon when I was there, they had 3 of the pipes already in on Kruger, and
Oh, really?
they probably finished this morning
Yeah.
putting the pipe in. I don't know when we'll actually get the road open again. But,
Yeah, hopefully soon. Again, they're working really quickly. So
right. Yeah. I was kind of impressed how fast they were moving.
yeah. Any other questions on the paving piece?
It's good. Some of those roads really need it.
Yeah. We've gotten some good feedback from citizens. I'll talk about that during my report. But
Awesome. Okay, with that, I'll move on to the pavement marking project. So that piece, again, we were going to refresh the striping on these streets shown in blue. We're going to have a pre-con. I met with Sillicin on site. They had some concerns about Rock Road. So we wanted to run it by the council. So we're talking Rock Road, the 2 miles we had planned from 45th to the highway. Since we bid it, I mean, the pavement on Rock Road keeps deteriorating, specifically down the center of Rock Road. These pictures are old. These are from 2023, so it's gotten worse. But there's consistently a pretty deep and wide crack going down the center of Rock Road. And where there's not a deep, wide crack, there's kind of like a depression down the center of Rock Road. So Sillicin has concerns about, if we put striping down the center of Rock Road in that depression with the water and with all the cracks, that we're not going to get the product we really want. And it could look not up to the standards we want. You could get calls from the public. Why are we striping, a crack essentially? So the thought is to potentially pull out the striping on Rock Road and do it when we can do some pavement improvements to Rock Road. Because really what Rock Road needs is, it needs a mill and overlay or an ultra thin overlay, something substantial so that we can have a nice smooth surface to put that striping on. So what we would recommend is, like I said, pulling out the striping on Rock Road, still refreshing all the striping on 53rd and 45th Street, as well as some other miscellaneous markings, which we've added, and wait to do Rock Road when we can do some pavement improvements, more substantial pavement improvements, potentially next year. So just taking what we had planned for next year when I presented in November, and we still need to fine tune this in the fall and, get an official budget number so we can see what we have to work with. But if we just tack on mill and overlaying Rock Road for those 2 miles from 45th to the highway and then restriping it, you're looking at around $400K. So that would bring the budget up to around 1.3 million for next year if we just straight tack it on to what we had planned next year. We can work with that. We can take some things out, adjust some things to get to a number we need to get to, but just wanted to throw that in there to kind of give you a sense, if we just throw it in there based on what we had planned for next year, what that number ends up being. And that quote for the mill and overlay is from APAC. That's their numbers. So we feel pretty good about that $400K for mill and overlaying Rock Road. Back on that, the other option is to just have Sillicin restripe Rock Road with the conditions that are out there today, just with the assumption that it may not look as good as we want. We may get complaints. It is an option, but we'd like to have your guys' input on how we want to approach that. We would recommend saving it when we can do some paving improvements, but it is an option to have them go out there and do that.
I don't remember what our target was for 2026 budget for these.
It's always around 900,000 900,000 is what we gave.
So we'll have to bump it.
Yeah. And then it becomes a budget discussion for.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're not ready to make that budget decision. Tonight. We don't do that till August, but we're working on budget between now and then, but it won't be finally approved till August. So
yeah.
Personally, I think that's a wiser option. We actually asked to go through all the cities, all the streets before, make sure we weren't putting any of the striping down on roads that we're going to be working the next year or two. And I think we did a pretty decent job at that. But
yeah.
Obviously, roads are roads and they deteriorate. So
yeah,
that's my perspective. I don't know. What does council feel?
I agree. I don't think we should try to stripe the middle of Rock Road. It's just too bad. I was driving down there the other day and wondering when we were going to do something to it.
Yeah.
So getting it onto the 2026 plan is probably the right thing.
I agree as well with that.
Okay.
So being as we had officially approved this before, do we need to withdraw that from the approval or what do we need to do?
It'd be a savings, I guess. So
Save
you
on
would
the
just
project.
direct him to say, don't do Rock Road, and then we would have the $14,000 in savings.
Then don't do Rock Road.
Then one last other miscellaneous pavement marking thing the city wanted us to look at. So the striping around Isley Elementary, so that's at Woodlawn and 53rd. So this is 53rd Street. So north is up on the screen. This kind of gives a good indication of why we're doing the restriping. That top picture is from 2017 when the striping looked halfway decent. Middle picture, obviously it's quite faded. And with this configuration, with that left turn lane, you had a lot of drivers, you know, who want to make that left into the school, cut across those yellow striping, further fading the yellow striping. So what we would propose and what we have in the bid package for Silson is to restripe this in a way like that bottom picture where we're just doing a white dashed line instead of all that yellow striping, just so driver behavior, they're already cutting that corner. And this complies with MUTCD and all that. So that's what we have planned. Just wanted to run that by you guys.
I
And then-
actually like that plan better than the plans where we do we bring the road down and curve it back in and all that. This seems to work a lot better.
That's what most people do anyway.
Yeah, it's what the way they drive. So might as well mark it that way.
Right.
Awesome. And then the other thing, so this is on Woodlawn. So again, outside of Isley Elementary. So north is right on your screen, just south of 53rd. The existing striping is just a 2-lane street with shoulders on either side, like that top picture shows. So you want us to look at potentially widening out, using that shoulder pavement to widen it out to accommodate left turn lanes into those 2 openings for the school. So that bottom picture kind of gives you an idea of what that would look like if we're to use that shoulder pavement. We think we can make it work. We have some concerns, which we'll get into, but I mean, one thing is, so north of 53rd, I don't show it here, but we would have to do some striping north of 53rd in order to make this work, and that gets into Keachai city limits, so we'd have to do some coordination there. Some other things to note, we'd probably want to investigate how thick the shoulder pavement is, potentially do some pavement cores. If we're going to be putting through traffic on that shoulder, a lot of times the shoulder pavement isn't as thick as the mainline pavement. So we'd probably want to investigate that before we start putting heavier traffic on the shoulder. Also, that school zone sign shown there becomes a lot closer to the edge of the road if we're using the shoulder. So we'd probably want to move that further off the edge of the road so a truck doesn't clip it and we don't have to replace it. Should be a simple move, but it's something we would need to account for. And then potentially the same reason on Rock Road, we had planned to restripe, or not restripe, do pavement improvements to this section of Woodlawn next year. So if we're still planning on doing that, it would make sense to wait on doing this until next year, because this wasn't originally in our scope to restripe Woodlawn. So it really wouldn't make sense to add it this year if we're going to do pavement improvements next year. So and then
I'd be really concerned about trying to use that shoulder for through traffic on Woodlawn. You get a lot of semis come down there because that has a controlled access off of 254. So that encourages them to use that road rather than Rock. Or I mean, they use the others, but they're encouraged to use Woodlawn if it makes sense to their route. Yeah, I would be very leery of using that shoulder because, like you said, it's probably not strong.
yeah. So that's all I got. Any other thoughts on any of the Isley Elementary marking?
Yeah, Luke, I agree with you. I think it takes some additional investigation to see what the thicknesses of the shoulders would be. I think it would be a wonderful opportunity to be able to add those lanes if it made sense with your additional research. I also just would ask you, if we did that research and next year we do a mill and overlay, what would be the downside to just restriping all of Woodlawn as 3 lanes as is, assuming the shoulders hold up or the shoulders were thick enough and met all their criteria.
You mean all the way to 45th?
What?
Are you talking all the way to 45th?
Yeah, I'm asking Luke.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to know what.
Yes,
what
yes,
scope
all of
you're-
Woodlawn from 45th to 53rd-ish. Just
Yeah. I mean,
what
I'd
would
have
be
to-
your concerns with doing that if the shoulders met the thickness?
I mean, the same reason the mayor kind of just, I mean, you lose a little bit of safety in
Sure.
not having that shoulder. It is pretty consistently 36 feet wide. So you have 3 12-foot lanes, which is generally more than standard is like 11-foot lanes. So having that additional foot does provide a little bit of comfort, but really it's just the safety aspect.
Sure. Yeah, you're taking off a shoulder that you had.
Yeah. Yeah, and you lose. Yeah, that's a good point.
I guess the way I was looking at this is with all the left turn motions with both those schools on that route, it made sense to at least investigate the possibility. We have lots of roads in our city that don't have shoulders. At least the advantage on Woodlawn is we have a full sidewalk on one side, and we do have a couple crossings. So anyway, just wanted to ask the question, if we were going to go through the hoops of investigating the shoulders, it just kind of seemed like maybe it'd be worth thinking through. Does it make sense to restripe the whole thing instead of having a random transition, just to have more consistency?
Yeah, and I could do a more detailed kind of cost benefit of doing that. I mean, yeah, there are definitely benefits
Sure.
from traffic standpoint, having the left turn lane. So
Well, there's going to be some additional school zone signs too there at Resurrection that you'll
Right.
have to deal with.
Yep.
yeah,
So the cost of moving those back. I think at this point, we should just verify the shoulder thickness and not do any striping this year
I
and
agree.
figure out what to do for next year.
I agree.
yeah, that sounds like a plan. That's all I have. Any other questions, concerns on anything else?
Thanks, Luke, for looking into that.
Yeah, I appreciate all the information and ideas. Keep them coming, right? We'll come up with something that'll work.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Appreciate the time.
All right, thank you. All right, ready to move on to citizens' concerns. Are there any citizens to speak to the council this evening? Any cards? No? Okay. We'll move on to council member reports. I'll start with Mr. Welch this time.
Well, I already mentioned I drove around the streets and thought things were looking good. I also stopped by the new park and there were a couple of families there taking advantage of it, said they really liked it. And they were not from the immediate area. They had come a distance to enjoy the park. So the word is out that it's a nice new park.
Even though it's not new.
Well,
Just new
the
equipment.
playground equipment. I'm
Right.
sorry, I wasn't clear. Yes. So that's basically my report.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, I was just looking some of the roads I bike on, so it's great to see some of those that were pretty rough to ride on that are now in much better shape. So that's all good. And I did go to the park as well, so that looks great as well. And so, yeah, in general, it's all. I'm glad to see all this work being done on the streets because it seemed like it's been too long. So good to
It
see.
has. Thank you. Mr. David.
I did attend the CCUA on the 24th, and we had some more exceedances on the influent this month, and they showed up on the effluent as well. But hopefully, with our pretreatment programs coming in, that'll come to a stop.
Okay. Mr. Dean.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have 2 quick things. Just a reminder, Bel Aire area chamber is having their monthly meeting tomorrow here in the community room. And then I had the chance today to attend a K254 steering committee, KDOT local consult task force meeting. That's a mouthful. But that was a good kickoff to our preparation for representing the corridor in the local consults this fall. So thank you.
Did you name that committee?
No, that was just kind of off cuff. I don't
Okay.
think it's an official name, but it's anyway, KDOT local task force.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Ms. Hamburg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 24th, I also attended the CCUA meeting. Rebecca Lewis gave us kind of a Q1 preview of what it will look like when our cost sharing is fully implemented. Just really highlighting that if both cities are operating within the parameters of how the plant is designed, it will be split evenly, and not just for the cost sharing, but just really encouraging everybody through pre-treatment and being good stewards of the plant, and also the effluent that goes back out, kind of nailing down where our strength issues are and getting them under control. So it was good to see that. On Saturday, April 26th, I attended the Arbor Day celebration, the planting and the cleanup at Eagle Lake Park with the tree board. It was nice. It was 3 hours. People came and went. I came and went. Appreciate everybody involved with that. It's always good to clean the park up. It's amazing. Just a short period of time, you can collect a lot of trash, and it's a good community building event. And those are monthly, so keep your eyes open for the next one and which park on that. And then on that note, last Thursday, really appreciate Sunrise students coming out and helping clean up and help with the city in various ways. So that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Just for the benefit of our scouts here, we're using some terms here that you probably don't know what they are. CCUA is Chisholm Creek Utility Authority. All of our sewage, our toilets, our sinks, our showers, all that goes to CCUA for treatment. Okay. And also we get our fresh water from there as well. The drinking water that you use comes from there. They're kind of two side-by-side facilities. They're all under one umbrella, but that's what we're talking about here. We talk about effluent. We're talking about the things that we send out, and influent is the things we take in. So if it's talking about the influent for CCUA, it's their things that are going into them, and then they have to clean that sewage because the water is dumped then to the stream. So anyway, just I thought we were probably talking way over your head because we know these terms and you probably don't. So okay, I'll go on to the mayor's report. So last Saturday on May 3rd, I represented Bel Aire at the change of command ceremony for the U.S. Army 451st Sustainment Command. And this was presided over by Major General Diane DeRosso, who is second from the right on the photo, right next to the dog, and Brigadier General Brandy Paisley, who is on the right in the photo, has been the commander, and she's been reassigned. And then Brigadier General James Porter, who is second from the left, is the new commander. So it was good to represent Bel Aire there. And that was Saturday at Veterans Park in downtown Wichita. So some Northeast high schoolers won awards in 2025 Congressional Arts Competition. So third place was Allison Mraz. Honorable mentions were Ray Becknell and Gavin Williams. All of these works of art are on display at March Art through May 10th, so this Saturday. So congratulations to these students for these artistic accomplishments. On April 22nd, City Council Member Dean, Ted Henry, Ann Stevens, and myself met with USD 259 people concerning traffic flow at Isley, which you've heard a little bit about from our PEC presentation. USD 259 will change the traffic flow pattern for that school this fall. And that may improve flow, but it won't fix the congestion due to the infrastructure issues. And most of those require rebuild of Woodlawn and 53rd Street. Although we saw some ideas here, I'm not certain those are going to fix the problems, but they're interesting ideas. Obviously, it's not doable in the next couple of years to spend a lot of money. But we did discuss the fact that the school was not built to be a magnet school, which dramatically increased the bus flow to traffic to that school. We also agreed to look at the possibility of putting a crosswalk across Woodlawn to help kids who will be walking to school from 53rd Street once the bike walk path is installed. And the signal, that would be a signal crosswalk, I think. We're not designing it here, but it can cost a lot of money if we do that. And so Ted and Ann are looking at proposals to present for cost sharing with USD 259, with the concept that more kids who ride bikes to school, less traffic load on the area. Now, on April 24th, I attended the CCUA board meeting as Ms. Hamburg and Mr. David also attended, and Rebecca Lewis did a nice job with the presentation of sewer flows. That preliminary data is an eye opener that we really have some work to do on pre-treatment. Both cities, and if we don't get that in line this year, it will be costly to us next year because of the strengths of the influence that we would be sending to the CCUA. So I also attended a pre-construction meeting yesterday at CCUA for the wastewater treatment plant expansion. And we now have a detailed construction schedule with milestones and critical path identified. We will start to see activity for the new fence and being installed in late July, early August, and along with the new driveways and significant site work will begin at that time. That is a 2.5-year project. It will be completed in late 2027. I also received the following note from Bel Aire citizen this afternoon. I want to thank you and the city of Bel Aire for the curb and gutter replacement and resurfacing done in the neighborhood streets of the Pearson Division. It is with joy that this area receives services that prove the safety and beauty of old Bel Aire. The new surface is easy to walk on and so smooth to ride a bike on. The street workers we talked with were polite, and the company appears to have done a good job. So it's always good to hear good citizen feedback, and positive feedback is much appreciated. So I'll now move on to our city attorney for her report.
Thank you, Mayor Benaj. This last month has been an opportunity for us to provide training to Bel Aire employees. We talked about harassment prevention training. Basically, overall, it's about creating a respectful and safe work environment, educating everyone about federal legal obligations, state legal obligations. It was a great opportunity to get together, talk to everyone, raise awareness on this subject, but also just going over our personnel policy manual at the same time. So that was done this week, and I think it's also very helpful on this specific subject. We learned about the EEOC, Kansas Human Rights Commission, really great resources out there that provide education on their website as well.
Thank you. Move on to our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should all just sit down and remember nights like tonight when we have new roads, new park, Boy Scouts behind me. Got the Sunrise kids that came out and cleaned it just feels good in Bel Aire right now. So I just had to say that just a little bit. Thanks for being here, Boy Scouts. Again, thanks for the Sunrise crew. The 53rd was in bad shape, and I think there's probably still some more. It was a rainy, wet week, and we couldn't reschedule, but the kids still got in there and got as much as they could. So I really appreciate them. As you know, we do have our new park installed, as you guys mentioned. When we started this project, we had kind of a lengthy discussion about the sand volleyball court. The way it was currently located, it was above this park. So anytime it rained, all the sand would basically wash onto our new park. So we removed it, found a huge manhole underneath that sand. So it was actually a pretty bad spot anyway to be in. Our Nick Bishop, our communications manager, first we went out and kind of sketched out where at Eagle Lake Park, if we wanted to keep it there, it would make the most sense. So wanted to just provide this graphic for you guys tonight to, if you want to walk back at the park, kind of visualize what we're thinking of reinstalling the volleyball court. The reason I say that is we've gotten a lot of comments as we kind of figured we would, and that's a good thing. We have citizen engagement with this, and a lot of the comments were we love the volleyball court in Eagle Lake Park. We love it by the shade. We love it northeast facing so that I don't have to look into the sun as I'm playing volleyball. Well, as you can tell, option B is northeast facing. Option A is kind of more in a shaded area. So there's no great option that's going to provide both of those. So there's a little bit of a give and take we're going to have with this decision if we choose to put it back in Eagle Lake Park. The other option, I've gotten a few emails saying, hey, what about putting it in Bel Aire Park? What about putting it at the rec center? this is all good news. This is all community engagement. As we enter our budget season, the way I see this is I think we've seen a lot of engagement in Eagle Lake Park. I think the residents in that area, just based on what I know, would be a little upset if we didn't reinstall it somewhere in that park. And as you know, we have a budget season coming up. A volleyball court's about $10,000, I think, the sides. So maybe we look at adding more volleyball courts if that's what our community wants or that's what it needs. What I'm kind of asking tonight, I know when we started this project, we kind of didn't know if we wanted a survey. So we did the sort of informal survey of removing something and see what happens. As we make this decision as a group of where to put it, would you like me to post something like this online to get citizen input on option A or B in Eagle Lake Park? Or we can even make an option C in a different park. I know we sometimes we defer away from surveys, but I think this might be an opportunity to really get the community input. So I leave it up to you to make a decision on that, or if you want to make a decision tonight or wait till next council meeting, I can do that as well.
Well, I personally, I think it's something we need to do sooner than later. I'm kind of okay with the survey, but those surveys are not statistically accurate at all.
Sure.
They're just going to be the ones who make the most noise will get the attention, and the rest of them won't get hurt. Kind of a thing. So you have to take those kind of surveys with a grain of salt, but I guess it would be better than the level of input we've had so far, which is not bad. It's all been good. It's just that it doesn't settle us to any direction. So I'm kind of okay with it, but let council members speak what they think.
So based on what I've seen, option B is the better of those two options. I would assume we could move option B west. It wouldn't have to be that far south.
Yeah, I mean, we can play with it a little bit. I know there's not a drainage ditch, but anyway, we'll put it in the best location possible of that area.
Yeah, if you go any farther east, you're in the drainage area.
Yeah.
Is it the possibility of putting it to the west side of the parking lot at the rec center?
I mean, and that's where we can leave that option, but here's what the overwhelming, we want it in Eagle Lake Park makes me think that if we move it out of Eagle Lake Park, it's going to be a pretty rough decision for the neighborhood.
Okay, it's going to tie up space if we put it at the rec center too.
Yeah,
I think the rec center and any other park is more of a budget discussion to me, and I want to speak for you or the citizens. But from a former finance director, it makes sense if we have a need at a park for a certain amenity, we would discuss it in the budget and install it.
Well, just spitballing here, the only way you're going to get really more shade on option B is if you move it south. And I don't know if you can do, if there's room there to move it.
And the other, I walked it. The other problem is it just looks like some harmless trees down there, but there's a pretty good drop off. So
Okay.
if a ball goes there, you might bring two balls. If we play two balls, you're not going to get it back.
Okay.
Ted, in general, I agree with a lot of the things that you said. I actually remember making a comment when we elected to take it out and then wait, that I felt like that it would not be the right thing to do to take it out of the park permanently. So I do agree with you and track with that. I do think that, like you said, there's kind of a give or take to either one of those options, but I would tend to probably lean towards option B as well. Again, there's pros and cons to the decision, and I think there probably is enough interest that maybe it is worth a budget discussion, that if it's fairly inexpensive to think about putting another quarter or two in other parks, but we can have that discussion later.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I got it, what I need.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, we're ready to move on to ordinances, resolutions, and final actions. And the first item A is, this is a resolution, R2404, which relates to advisability of IRBs, industrial revenue bonds. And Kevin Cowan is here to help us walk through this. I don't have good notes on this because this is a late ad. So
Yes.
anyway.
It was a late ad.
Yeah.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Kevin Cowan with Gilmore and Bell. This resolution simply amends an earlier intent resolution that the governing body approved for the Waltons project off Webb Road. And that intent resolution had an expiration date on it, which those typically do, and we're past that date. And so one of their consultants contacted me this week and said their project exemption certificate for sales tax purposes, which is tied to that same expiration date, had also expired, wondering if that could be extended because they're close to the end of the project and have some final expenditures. And I said, it requires a majority vote of the governing body according to the terms of the original resolution. So I quickly drafted this short resolution. Ted was nice enough to add it, and you're nice enough to add it late to your agenda. And with adoption of this, we can supplement their application to the Department of Revenue, under which they have their project exemption certificate, and simply get that date extended. If you had a chance to look at the resolution, it's until the end of this year, December 31st, 2025. That will do two things. The project exemption certificate will extend for that same period of time, but there's also every expectation that the bonds will actually be issued this year prior to that December 31st expiration date. So happy to try to address any questions.
Do you know when they're going to actually complete the project?
It's close. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
In the last month or two, I had a similar conversation with the same consultant that reached out to me, and they were nearly complete and sort of talked about, when do you think the bonds will be issued? They need to be issued by the end of this year for property tax abatement purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of generally understood based on that. It wouldn't be the end of the year that the project was complete and we're scrambling to get the bonds issued by December 31st. It would be earlier than that. So based on that, I was thinking maybe late summer, but don't hold me to that.
Okay, thank you.
They've already moved in and they're using it. I was by there yesterday also.
Oh, they have. Election
It
office
looked
kicked them
like it
out?
was finished to me, so they can't have much left to do.
Election
Yeah, I know
office
they're
kicked them out,
close,
huh?
but whether it's punch list items or what they're down to.
I
it's-
have no problem with extending it.
Well, all right.
Okay.
Entertain the motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution of the governing body of the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, amending its resolution number R-24-04, which relates to the advisability of issuing taxable industrial revenue bonds for a certain facility to house a meat processing, supply, and equipment commercial facility to be located in the city, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Okay. good.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Welch, and I think a second from Mr. Schmidt. Any additional questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll take a call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item is work order 2502 from PEC. We briefly touched on this in PEC's presentation. So I think Ms. Ann Stevens is going to tell us more about this one.
So as we heard at the special meeting last week, this is a design contract. It has some funds in there for construction services. If questions come up during the construction, for PEC to answer those. But this is to do preliminary design and final design on the concept that was presented last week with the mill and overlay and the under drains from Quail Ridge to the south and the complete reconstruction of the roadway with the under drains with the additional over excavation from Quail Ridge up to 45th Street.
This doesn't include construction inspection that's done by other firm.
That is correct. That will be a change order that you will see directly from KDOT.
Right.
But yes, that is correct. This does not include that.
Because I know there was some terminology in this change order that sounded like it might be that, and I didn't think it was, but I wanted to clarify to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's mostly, there are, I believe, 5 site visits included in this, just to make sure that everything is going according to plan. There's also money for reviewing shop drawings. Any material that is being incorporated into the project gets submitted via a shop drawing, a catalog cut, et cetera, to the design engineer for review, making sure that the material that is going into the project is exactly what they had specified or as an or equal quality. So that's in there. And then as, like I said, any questions. So if they come up and when the contractor gets busy over excavating and if they find a questionable spot, they'll call PEC out. They will come and look at it and provide recommendations on how to move forward.
Do they take over making sure the cones are in place? Because I've noticed a lot of those knocked down over the last few days.
No, that's not going to be their responsibility. Garver has been driving the project every day on their portion of the construction inspection. They do email. It's not their Garver's role is to inspect, not to do the work. And so they email, I want to say it's RoadSafe, I believe, is the contractor on this. And then RoadSafe is supposed to come out and fix those. But obviously it doesn't get done immediately. It's as soon as they can. So I know our crews have been out on multiple times picking up and resetting cones.
Yeah, and those cones are starting to look pretty bad.
A lot of them are very sun worn. And if you pick them up at the wrong place, the top breaks off.
And I believe we have an email out to RoadSafe to see if we can't replace those.
Yes.
We'll double check on that, but hopefully get some replacements and they'll stand up a little better.
Okay, that was a side trip, but
Brilliant. Okay. Any questions or discussion about this change order?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I
Dean?
also did have a quick question. I noticed that there was a section in there that talked about schedule, and there was a timeline of about, I think it was 4 months that was
Correct.
mentioned in there of what the design it would take to complete the final design.
Correct.
Just a question on schedule. Is there any thought process that construction repairs could start before the end of the final design, or is that linear and it'll happen at the end of that?
We are currently in discussions with KDOT to see if they would allow us to do anything to speed this up, such as breaking the project in half into the south of Quail Ridge and north of Quail Ridge, since those are drastically different projects. If that does happen, there is a possibility of it getting started sooner, but for the public's sake, please don't anticipate anything happening before that date. I would also plan on roughly a month for contracting purposes. Once the final design is finished, KDOT needs to approve it. It's got to go to the contractor for pricing, and then that pricing will come back to the city. Obviously, all parties involved do understand the complexity, the issues surrounding this, the frustration of the staff, the citizens, the council, all of the public who drive this road, and we do understand excuse me, that time is of the essence. So everybody is going to be trying to push this along as quickly as possible. However, there are certain steps that we need to follow because this is still a federally funded project.
Right. And it's really important to get it right.
That is correct.
But I do appreciate the clarification on timing. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, pretty much answered it, I think, but the portion here where it says propose a construction sequence for orderly construction of the project. I know residents and we're thinking about, these long periods and the business is long there where it's one way this way and closed here. They say propose, but you're saying this is going to be a team effort between KDOT and all parties.
Specifically the construction sequencing, the phasing of the project, how it gets built. We are working on getting a meeting set up between the city, PEC, Pearson, and Garver to get their learned experiences from going through this the first time. Was the one-way traffic north really the best way? Is it one-way traffic south? What's the best way to do it? There's going to be one-way traffic. We don't have enough. Just be prepared for that. We haven't really discussed it, but I can say with pretty good confidence there will be one way. But we really haven't gotten into the details of the phasing, and we are going to use the lessons learned from those that were actually out on site to, make sure that we've got a situation that is going to be the most feasible, not only for the traveling public, but also the contractor. The contractor may come in and say, hey, if you do this, that'll save me 2 weeks. All right. We'll look at that. We'll evaluate it. If it doesn't have an extraordinary impact on the residents in the area or the traveling public traversing the section, then that's something that we'll probably move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns of this change order?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
I move we approve work order number 25-02 from PEC for Woodlawn Avenue from 37th Street North to 45th Street North as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. David. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank Maria and Ben for getting us this contract in record time. We know how important this project is, and they worked weekends just to get it to us. So thank you, Maria, and thank you, Ben.
Very much appreciated. You guys turned that in a week, and that's good. Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, move on to item C, and this is one I was a little confused on. This is the one we heard from our presentation from Luke Peter about. So item C, so this is asphalt mill and overlay repairs. We're approved council for several streets as part of the 2025 street maintenance program. And these locations were discovered were degraded and need more work. So this is recommendation is a full depth replacement of asphalt and Ann Stevens is here, and Ben Avery is also here. I don't know if he wants to answer any questions regarding this, but he's here. So, okay.
So as Mr. Peter presented earlier, the locations of Stratford Lane and Stratford Court, this would be between Danbury and Odessa. I was called out as soon as they got it milled out, and there were some soft spots. I went out that evening. They were finishing up. There was not very many people there. I didn't talk to them, but I'm like, yeah, this is not looking good. I came back the next late morning, and the areas had grown because they were putting in the asphalt on Danbury and sealing that up, and just the trucks driving by. These are unloaded trucks, so you can imagine what a garbage truck or a school bus would do. The roadway was just sinking and then coming back up. We call that pumping, and it just, you could see the areas starting to expand. So with that, there really isn't another solution other than completely reconstructing this road. We will leave the curb and gutter in place and just go in between the curb and gutter are 6 inches with a 5-inch rock base. So I was very concerned when I talked to them about doing this, what the cost would come back in at. And fortunately, it's relatively minor. I think it's a huge win for the city. I would really hesitate to put just the 2-inch overlay on there, knowing that we would be back in a few years doing pretty much the exact same thing. And I
It would
would
be a
really
few
prefer
years.
to avoid that if possible.
It won't be that long.
No.
Right.
So what you're going to do is going to be 11 inches of new work, right?
Correct.
So there'll be some excavation down.
Yeah. And I will say that I've been very impressed with the speed that APAC has been working. They have been doing a very good job informing the neighbors, certainly directly impacted with the project, but working with our communications staff, Nick Bishop, he does a really good job answering questions and helping to get the word out beyond just those whose driveways abut this project. So we'll make sure, assuming you approve tonight, we'll get with APAC on a schedule for this and make sure we do canvass the neighborhood so folks are aware and kind of work with them on how to get in and out. But APAC's been very good making sure that we limit impact to residents, and when we do have to impact them, give them direction on who, what, when, and where they can park, how long it's going to take. And I just can't really say enough about how well they've been doing that.
So it's definitely going to be inconvenient, but I think everybody will be happy when it's done.
Correct.
And I did have a quick question. Do you have any thoughts on why it's so soft? Do you think there's any underlying drainage issues that have caused it, or is it just age? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
I really don't. It really seems to be age. We are significantly higher than Woodlawn, probably at least 5 feet. So I don't see any signs of it being a water issue. Obviously, when we tear it out and go down, if we're continuing to sink, we'll have to do more drastic measures and maybe over excavate some more. But haven't run into an issue yet so far, knock on wood, that we've had issues like Woodlawn or Bristol Hollows is another example. But those were also lower. We were going down a lot further I do think the pavement section that we have specified is going to be more than adequate.
Sounds to me like this road, when it was built, just didn't have enough foundation to it when it was built.
That was kind of honestly one of my thoughts, but this subdivision would have all been built at the same time using roughly the same section. So I don't know why just these two areas are having all the issues when the streets adjacent to it are not. But when I was out there, they milled 2 inches off, and there's maybe an inch, maybe 2 inches of asphalt, and then it's just like a sand. So I don't know if there was something strange about the particular asphalt mix they used during the days of the installation of these two areas, or if there's something else, or, if they just didn't do as good of a job on these two streets as they did on the other ones. I don't have an answer.
This neighborhood's about 30 years old, is that correct?
That sounds about right, but I haven't checked recently.
I think it's more than that now. Our neighborhood's about 30 years old.
Probably 40, probably more.
Because, 20 years ago was 1980, not 2020, 2005. So it's a little scary.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to accept change order number 2 for the 2025 street maintenance project for replacement of asphalt at certain locations on Stratford Lane, Stratford Court, and Hillcrest and 45th Street in an amount not to exceed $107,024, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. Smith. Any other questions or discussion? There are none. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. On item D, this is a planned unit development for Chapel Landing. And at their April meeting, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of our PUD for Chapel Landing addition, contingent upon approval of development agreement and a party wall agreement. Now the recommendation and agreements come before council for consideration. And Director of Planning Development, Paula Downs, is here to give a presentation and answer questions. And before you start, I want to say thank you, Scouts, for showing up, and you have a great evening, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. All right. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. This is might be a similar case or familiar case to you all. It's been before you before, has been through the Planning Commission several times. It involves Chapel Landing addition. The map of where that what's included in this PUD application is up on the screen. That's okay. That's all right. It's fine. We don't need it. It's good stuff. So in my staff report, I tried to put together a case history for you all. It's had a little bit of a history. This case started back in September. As you recall, it is around the end of August, city staff discovered that lots with duplex units on it had been split. And so we wanted to make sure that we conformed the lot and made it where it needed to be. And so we had another similar case. The council had a lot of discussion about concerns for property owners, current and future property owners, to make sure that they could be protected. We had a discussion about wall agreements. We've had a discussion about access to the Evergy 2-plex meters that were installed on one side of the building or the other. A previous case did have a development agreement that we had to amend due to certain language in there. That condition does not exist in Chapel Landing. The streets, everything else has been installed, and we are just trying to move past the idea of the interior zero lot lines. And so this PUD agreement, we've been back and forth. Everything that has been asked for by the council has been included in the agreement to meet the needs and the concerns that you guys had expressed earlier. And unless there is, and this is back to the thing, where it's at. We're going to the map. Thank you, Ted, for pulling that up. The original PUD petition was filed in August of 2024. The case has been placed on several planning commissions. I put the history in for you, but it was requested that some additional information be added, which I've shared with you. They've agreed to all the PUD language and the additional requested documents that were required. And on April 10th, the Planning Commission approved it and recommend that you approve it also. There are some language I just put in there that we were clarifying everything. They've included everything in all and meeting all your concerns at this point, and that we are recommending approval of the case. And the applicant is here if you have any questions or anything, but wanted to let you know that they had
So
complied
we
with
do
everything.
have, just for clarification, we do have item D and item E is related.
Yes.
Because it's an ordinance and we'll have a script we'll go through for the ordinance.
Correct.
And we will have opportunity for you and
Absolutely.
Mr.
Jay,
Cook
Mr. Cook, yes.
to speak at that time.
And Mr. Mayor, may I make a quick comment? Thank you. We did receive a couple of questions. One of the questions was about the agreements. Has this area already been developed, or most residential units, are they or under construction? We have an answer for that. And there's question number 2 we received. Under the infrastructure installation area, it does not list roadway and or sidewalks. Is this covered elsewhere? And I do happen to have an answer for that, and I was going to mention it real quick. According to an agreement that was filed with Sedgwick County Register of Deeds in 2016, there is a section that talks about infrastructure installation. It goes into detail about all of the things that shall be done in accordance with federal, state, local legislation and the ADA. And then it gives examples of all the infrastructure improvements that are to be made, which includes streets, curb, gutter, sidewalks, signs, stormwater system, pond excavation, mass. So I wanted to make sure that council knew, with that question being asked, that those items were included. It was just in an earlier version of the agreement back in 2016.
So this agreement does not replace that. It's an addition to that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
So what's the difference between D and E? I mean, I know E goes into the split lot thing, but what is D approving if E is really talking about the split lot? So what's D?
So D is an agreement, a planned unit development agreement. E is actually a city ordinance.
Okay, so so we've never done the agreement on number D yet? That hadn't
No,
happened?
we've talked about it before. It's been before council before, but there's a bit of a history on this.
Yes,
And,
I know.
and they've worked with the developer and,
Okay.
and they've worked back and forth quite a bit. And I want to say I do appreciate the developer working with us and coming to something that looks like
Okay.
it's
All right.
equitable and fair and for the long term. Because the concern that we have with these kind of things that, 10 years down the road, somebody sells property and the new owner has no idea about how this thing came
Right.
together
Sure.
and no idea of who's responsible for what. This puts in place those agreements. Now, this it's you lead the horse to water, you can't make them drink. If they at least have the agreement in front of them,
Sure.
and if they haven't read them, that's their issue. Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
I
Mayor.
also want to thank Paula because I think the report you did a really good job of laying out the history and the timeline of dealing with this specific issue and also relating back to previous related. So thank you for all that. I know that's a
It
lot,
helped
but
me
that does help.
probably way more than it helped you.
Does help.
Very helpful.
And the questions I had have been answered. So I'll go ahead and make a motion if there's no more discussion. We'll go ahead and
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
I've talked to this with our city attorney
Can
before.
we let him finish and then you can ask your question?
He's ready to make a motion. I want to ask.
That's okay.
before-
He can make a motion. You can still have a discussion afterwards.
I don't know. He ceded the floor, I thought, but
I did. If we wanted
Okay.
more discussion.
her and I had a discussion once about a different, isn't it R4A that would allow for this without doing a PUD?
That is the other zoning. It's I can pull it out. I don't know if that would work for this specific project with all the information, but there was another zoning district, I believe, and I'm going to pull it up.
Well, I guess to expand on my question, are we only doing a PUD because we didn't build the buildings right to start with for what we want them to be now? Or should we be doing the PUD at all? Because that's a planned unit development, and this doesn't sound like it was very well planned. And we did a PUD for 53rd and Oliver on the north side, and that was exactly what I think a PUD should be.
What council member, may I go ahead and respond? Yes. What Councilmember Welch is referring to is the single family / zero lot line residential zoning district, acronym ZLL, also known as R-5B. That is what he was referring. I think that was mentioned in a discussion the last time this was up as well.
Yes, but why are we not doing that?
I have to defer to applicant and staff on that question.
So I would have to look at, quite frankly, I'd have to look at that zoning district, but when the application was filed, it was in consultation with previous staff, and that's how the original application started, was the PUD.
I understand
requirement.
all that
Yeah.
and the history and the screwed up mess. And what I really want to get out of this question is, should we be pushing developers towards the R5B? I guess I said the wrong one, instead of trying to use a PUD, which really isn't designed to do this.
In general, the PUD is designed for creative and innovative development. That's the statutory right? We're getting creative, basically. I'd have to look and see in the zoning code if these districts are defined by purpose, use, and other items, right? So if it fits in there, then it would. But like I said, I don't know what the original discussion was, and Mr. Cook might remember what happened last August when this first started. But what happened was, where we started was it fit under the PUD definition because of the way it had been split after the development had occurred. So without me going back through, I'm happy to provide you a response to that. I just don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know. You and I may have to sit down sometime and discuss what a PUD really is, because that's not the definition I got when I looked it up.
Okay.
And like I said, the other development at 53rd and Oliver really fit what I've read a PUD is. It says we'll have apartments here and single family here and multifamily here. And it doesn't say anything about we're going to have one duplex here that's owned by two people and we're going to do a lot split on it sitting next to. It's not meant for that fine a grain.
Well, I do think that's a good discussion to have, but as much work has gone into this one, I'd hate to stop this one for that discussion.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we stop this. I think I want to make sure we're taking the right direction going forward. I know how screwed up this one is, and all the bad things that have happened and all the people that said this and that, and it's been a horrible mess. But I want to go forward with a much better plan.
Absolutely.
Than to come in and do this stuff.
And we had a previous case with the same, almost the same exact, with another case that we went through a PUD process also.
Yeah, but they actually did lot splits, and to my opinion, it was different.
Let's not rehash it.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
No advantage there. Mr. Dean.
I move we approve the plan unit development agreement for the Chapel Landing Addition RPUD as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dean and a second by Ms. Hamburg. Are there any other questions or discussions on item D? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye, just because I don't think it's the right way to do it.
Okay. So that motion carries 4-0.
No, 4-1.
I'm sorry, 4-1. You're right. Thank you. With Mr. Welch. No. All right. Next item is item E. Second. So this is the PUD, and this is the ordinance. So we'll have a script we need to follow here. I'll pull that up. So So the planning commission is recommending that council approve this zone change, a request to the city. So change zone from single family residential R4 to planned unit development residential district RPUD to create Chapel Landing addition RPUD in PUD 24-04. The property is generally located at North Oliver Street and East 53rd Street North, Bel Aire, Kansas. If the council were to approve the recommended zoning change requested, it would be adopted by an ordinance. Disqualification and declaration of quorum determined. So before we proceed, with the hearing, does anyone on the council intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they have a conflict of interest? And I do need to have either a no, you do not have a conflict, or yes, you do, and you can tell us what it is. Or tell us briefly that you have a conflict of interest. You got to tell us a lot of detail. Okay? So I just need to
No
affirm.
conflict. No
No?
conflict.
No conflict.
Okay. So let the record show that there was no conflict declared. The next item is ex parte communications. Has anyone in the council received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to this agenda item which they would like to share? Again, no. Consensus, and let the record show the consensus is no one has had any ex parte communications. And the protest petition, has the city clerk received any protest petitions in this case? Let the record show that there are no protest petitions been filed. So has anyone in the council received the unapproved, has everyone, not anyone, everyone in the council received the unapproved minutes of the planning commission for April 10th, 2025, which summarizes the public hearing for this case?
Yep.
I'm seeing that they're saying yes. So let the record show that everyone has responded, that they have read the record. Have been determined that all council members have received and required information. Staff will provide a report first, and then the applicant and then the members of the public may speak in this case, confining their presentations to new information not otherwise presented in the public hearings. Afterwards, council may want to direct questions to the applicant, the city staff, or other persons. So this is time for your report, Paula. If you have anything.
I have nothing to add from what I provided on item D, which is close proximity to the same project.
Does the applicant have anything they would like to add, Mr. Cook?
J. Cook, Baughman Company, 315 South Ellis. For the record, I don't have anything to add, but I'm happy to answer questions if there are any that need to be asked. And just to answer a quick one, the reason why you don't do R5B on this is because you would still have to have an interior side lot or a side setback, excuse me. So even if you had a piece dwelling unit that went to the lot line, by your code, you have to have 10 foot before the next structure. That's the reason we didn't go with the R5B, is because you can't split down the middle. You'd still have to have 10 feet between the structures. PUDs are used for a number of things. It's not necessarily to add. I think what your interpretation of PUD adds several different types of development into one area, and that's not always the case. It's just a way to try to make your development that doesn't necessarily meet the exact criteria of the code fit.
Yeah, let's
somewhere.
let's not get too much in the weeds about that
I'm
issue.
just trying to answer
I
a
appreciate your information, but if we get too much in the weeds, we'll never get done tonight. So, okay. So, but thank you. If there are no questions for Mr. Cook,
I don't have anything.
we'll move on to written communications. Have any written communications been received? I think that's from the city clerk. No. Let the record show no written communications received, and applicant has been here, and you do have the opportunity to make a presentation if you'd like. Okay, so he's chosen not to do that. That's fine. So public comments, we don't have anybody from the public here. Everybody I see is city staff or Mr. Cook. That's all I see. So any questions for the, okay, no public here, so that's that, not relevant. So I guess it's time for council deliberations. So if no one further speaks.
Mr.
Any questions or concerns? Mr.
No, I don't have any questions or concerns. I know it's been a messy process and there was a staff retirement during this time, but I'm glad we're to this point. I appreciate every staff and everybody getting to this point. I personally think it's a bonus. It fits the character of the neighborhood and there's value. I think, I don't have anything against renters, but it's nice when there's ownership as well. So, I'm glad we're to this point and I support approving this. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Smith.
Yeah, so it sounds like the documentation issues have been addressed. And so if somebody coming in unaware of this situation will have methods or ways to at least know that they know what they're getting into. And so that's what it sounds like I read. So I want to make sure you agree so I think we've got all the boxes checked in relation to how do we make sure the citizens are okay in this when they get into this kind of a situation? And it sounds like we are okay.
The document reflects the concerns that you all expressed,
Okay.
and they agreed to those.
All right,
So,
great.
yes.
Thank you. I have nothing else.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, this is we need a motion, but this will be a roll call vote. So if we're ready for a motion, if we're not, I'm not trying to jump ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd also kind of throw in there that I agree it's sort of a similar character of the neighborhood. As was discussed earlier, across the street, we've approved a PUD that will have a similar sort of feel and availability of different construction, different levels of density and whatnot. So I'd be in favor of this as well. And if we're ready to make a motion, I'll go ahead and proceed with that.
And Mr. Mayor, prior to a motion, could we get some more golden factor comments from the other four on the council, please?
Yes, we probably should do that. Thank you for reminding us. Yeah. So that is an important thing we need to document in the record, golden factor comments.
I'll finish my comments. I believe I did bring up at least one golden factor, but I also agree with the recommendation made by Planning Commission in the notes, and also the recommendation to move forward with it. So,
Yeah, I'll just add that I agree with everything's been said and the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
And I appreciate those comments. Are those adequate for golden factor comments? Because they're referring back to the Planning Commission statements?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
I want to make sure that was true. You didn't have to go and specifically state one of them here. Okay, very good. All right. So
He said we're good.
I'm just confirming with the city attorney that we were adequately addressed there. Yes.
Just wondered if you need anything else from anyone else.
Yeah.
If anyone would like to share anything with their
Sure,
vote, they
welcome
may.
to. Yes. Of course. And if there is none, then I think we are ready for a motion. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move we approve the findings of fact and recommendation of the Planning Commission for PUD 24-04, adopt the ordinance as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Mr. Dean and a second by Mr. Schmidt. And I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David,
Aye.
Mr. Tyler Dean,
Aye.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Aye.
Mr. Tom Schmitz,
Aye.
Mr. John Welch,
Aye.
and Mayor Jim Benaj.
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0, Mayor.
Thank you.
How much longer do you think we're going to be?
We got 1, 2, 3, 4 more items. So if you'd like to call recess, you might be a good time to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to move for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. We're 5-minute recess. That's fine. I'm going to call the meeting back to order from recess, and we'll move on to item I. And this is a change order number 4 for additional fire hydrant. The April 15th, City Council discussed adding a fire hydrant near Webb Road sewer lift station to aid in lift station maintenance. Council was favorable with the idea, but wanted city engineer to work with engineers for Bel Aire Lakes addition, PEC, to find lower cost options, and worked with the parties involved. And the change order is now before the council for their consideration and is here to discuss and answer questions.
So we met on site and did our hand waving and magic stuff and found a new location for the fire hydrant. As Mr. Welch and Mr. Dean suggested, it is closer to the road, so it will serve much more broader use than just the lift station. We had to play with the location a little bit. The change order amount is probably going to vary slightly depending on the exact dimensions that are used, but we put a flag in the ground and said this is where, and it's just all parties on site understood that there may be a little bit of wiggle room just depending on how things specifically work out in the field and joints, et cetera. But the change order is going to be right near $15,000 instead of the $35,000 that we were looking at previously. So I do appreciate council's input last meeting so we could get this done and get this reduced by more than half. So in working with the city attorney, the original motion was to accept change order number 2. The change order 3 that had been provided that the council accepted at that same meeting after this was based on the amounts of change order 2. And so just the logistics of keeping track of dollars and cents, PEC, the construction administrator for this, did request that we do change order number 4 instead. So the city attorney has prepared 2 motions for you tonight to basically rescind the motion accepting change order 2 and approving the motion for change order 4, just so everything is clear, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. If there's anybody ever question on the paper trail, it's right there in front of us.
I think the moral of the story is we should probably not just make willy-nilly motions because us 3 were there trying to say, okay, how do we make this motion? And I think this is the most clean version to do it.
You can't do the motions together, though?
Well,
It's-
Rescind and add?
It is possible that somebody could not agree, and it would be cleaner to do them individually.
Mr. Mayor?
One of the thoughts I have is what was wrong with our motion when we mentioned that it was up to her to negotiate and not to exceed? What's wrong with doing it that way?
There was nothing inappropriate with it. The change order reference number 2, which does not match the
Gotcha.
actual
Got
change
it.
order, which is number 4.
So
And
it's really
since
the
a
numbering of the change order
modification-
that's the issue, not really the amount.
Okay.
Okay. Makes sense.
Mr. David?
Make a motion to rescind a motion passed at the Bel Aire City Council meeting on April 15th to accept change order number 2, Bel Aire Lakes Addition Phase 1 for addition of a fire hydrant near the Webb Road sanitary sewer lift station, the amount not to exceed $35,000. Give engineer authority to work through a plan, negotiate a final price, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion to rescind by Mr. David and second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David?
I'll make a motion to accept a new change order number 4 for the Bel Aire Lakes Addition Phase 1 for the addition of a fire hydrant near the Webb Road sanitary sewer lift station in an amount not to exceed $15,000 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Mr. David and second by Mr. Welch. And I forgot to ask if there's any other discussion on the prior motion, so I'll give you the opportunity if you want to discuss this at all. And if not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 5-0. On item J. This is, on February 4th of 2025, City Council and staff discussed updates regarding payment processing fees for card transactions. And the City Council requested further investigation into this matter by the staff Ted will start the discussion, and Barry will share some financial information. It looks like Barry's.
Yeah, Barry's going to beat me to it. I just wanted
Okay.
to kind of frame this. As you know, we initially hoped to get the best of both worlds. That included taking the lowest amount we could and just passing it on to the customers. Through the conversation, we discovered that this is kind of a gray area when it comes to state law and different legal matters. We involved Tyler's attorneys, our attorneys, probably several other attorneys, Maria, and we're provided with these two options that Barry will kind of go through and we can make our decision on.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. Ted has a great recap. So we're basically just going to go over the absorb model versus the service fee model and those percentage differences between each of those models. So first, we'll start off with utilities. This is our major module. We have the most transactions in. Currently, we are on that absorb model. We are charged that 2% processing fee through Tyler. There's a 50-cent minimum transaction fee. And then we are responsible for the interchange fees, which is the processing on the backside for all the card transactions. We were averaging about 0.5% on those. Tyler estimates usually 0.5% to 1.5% on those, but we were averaging about 0.5%. So that's why when you see the fee calculations there on the example transactions, those are all about 2.5% on those fees ones. So currently we absorb those fee amounts there for those transaction totals. On the service fee model, in order to pass along all the costs involved, the quote is providing a 3.7% processing fee rate from Tyler, which would then be passed on to the customers. So there's also a list of the same example transactions at that new rate for all utility transactions. Card transactions, sorry, not all transactions. Any questions on that?
So this is if we implement the software in the current, we're absorbing it. The city's just paying those out of funds, out of city funds, right?
Yep.
And the other, we're actually asking the customers to pay for those credit card charges, which is so that the city at large or other citizens aren't having to pay for their credit card charges.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, right now when a customer makes a $100 utility payment, we receive that $100 and then $2.50 goes back out to pay for those processing fees. On the service fee model, the resident would pay their $100 bill and then also pay the $3.70 as a separate service fee transaction to cover the processing costs by Chase and Tyler.
Is that two charges to their card?
Yes, it is charged separately. So when they check out, they'll see the total of everything, the total of what their utility bill is plus the service fee total. But on the backside, on like their bank statement, they'll see $100 utility bill, $3.70 service charge. So it's separated out because it goes directly to the card processor.
So what's it going to show on their statement for who's collecting that $2 or whatever? Is it going to say Tyler Technologies or?
Yeah, Tyler Technologies, Chase.
So we're going to get a whole bunch of phone calls. Why did I get this $2 charge until everybody learns what's going on?
Correct.
Yeah. Related to that, if we do this in the rollout, we need to give plenty of notice before we just turn the switch on and say, oh, everybody's going to get it. And people say, why? But you're still going to get that. You know that. But you do have to have plenty of notice. Ms. Hamburg, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and I just want to be clear. This is just for card transactions, ACH, check, cash is all fee-free, correct?
ACH, cash, check, money order, no fees involved, drop and mail them off, and automatic bank draft.
Okay.
You can sign up for that as well, yeah, the ACH.
But debit card, they would have a charge. Because you don't know the difference, right? Debit cards.
We'll defer to Maria on that one. I think will be touched on during our next agenda.
So
item there.
next agenda item is states that the city doesn't accept debit cards. So
I saw that.
The person that would choose to use whatever form of payment they want, it's a credit transaction.
All right.
So,
got it.
Mr. Mayor. So what is the preferred, what's the lowest cost for the city to accept? There's nothing to do if it's a credit card to Tyler. If somebody brings in a check, there's a teller at the window. What's the simplest way for Bel Aire?
ACH is the simplest way. We can do 1,214 transactions in about 2 minutes.
And that's all through Tyler.
Yep. We sign everybody up for automatic bank draft. We run the report and we send the file to the bank. So that's definitely the easiest, cost-effective way of processing a utility payment.
Another question that you didn't quite address, I think it's buried in here, but going to ask it explicitly. We are not paying Tyler, the city of Bel Aire is not paying Tyler anything to implement this change. Tyler is only getting paid by charging for the transaction fee.
Correct.
Okay.
There's
So
no implementation fees at all for.
so there's no
switching.
cost to the city
Nope.
to do the service fee.
Correct.
The only other element that, you can think about is this too much of a charge, too less? We might get, you talk about phone calls, they might get upset. And I think that's where we direct them to ACH and other forms of payment. I just want to let you guys know that that might be a conversation our clerks have frequently. It might get up to you guys with this little higher charge.
What's our current percentage of ACH versus credit card?
ACH is about 28.5% of all of our transactions, and credit cards are about 42.5% of all of our transactions.
So there's going to be a lot of people hit.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
And utilities are 95% of our total transactions. So it's mainly around utility payments.
okay. So currently, or at least last year, we spent like $126,000 just on credit card fees, right?
Yeah, it was up around 150 to 160,000.
Oh,
Yes.
150, 160,000. Okay.
Yep.
So that's a big coin for us to be spending just to give people this convenience
Right.
of using their credit cards. And I think the trend is just in the economy is to go more this route of charging for those credit card fees rather than businesses absorbing them. And so that's where the state came in and said, we can do this. But they can't say that for debit cards. It's
The other choice
federal
is,
law says you can't do that.
the other choice is to make everybody pay more so that some people can use credit cards. So that
yeah.
they don't have to pay the
So
$150,000.
So that's basically what's
in
happening.
fees.
That's one option. I mean, we could do a technology fee, $1 on every customer's bill every month. Like that would be that sort of scenario you would do and use that technology fee to cover this fee. Again, there's several ways to skin this cat.
Yeah, I don't like that last one because people that aren't using it are paying for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So my preference is to charge the fee, the service fee.
Yeah,
And it may get people to change to ACH because
Mhm.
I would pay by credit card because it's good for me and my credit card and cash back and all that stuff. But as soon as I start getting hit with that, I'm going to say, yeah, maybe I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, you're going to pay 3.7% to get your 1% back
Yeah,
cash back, right?
Exactly.
Boy, what a bargain.
playing the game.
So
Yeah, no, I agree. We've always been on ACH. I mean, you sign up once and you just never worry about it again. It's the easiest thing and it's the best for the city. So I'm in favor of charging the fee.
As long as you keep enough money in your bank account.
It's true.
True.
So Barry, correct me if so as we walk through these different modules, we can structure it so we absorb some modules and go on this payment C. So when we get down the rec, that's when we probably need to talk about this, but go ahead, Barry, with your presentation.
Yep. So as I said, utilities, that's 95% of our transactions. That's where the bulk of that cost comes from. So for miscellaneous payments, they could be random records request payments, any kind of smaller items like that. Any kind of business licenses and permits. This is our current fee schedule on the left here. It's 65 cents plus 0.65%, plus the interchange fees for any in-person payments. If anyone's paying online, we pay the same thing plus the $1.25 online payment portal fee from Tyler Payments. We're currently absorbing all that. If we switch to the service fee model for this one, the percentage is 3.75%, and there's an additional $1.25 if you're paying online. And to Mr. Welch's question earlier, I did verify today that Tyler Payments fee, if we do choose to pass that along as well, that is a separate transaction as well. So on the service fee model for miscellaneous license and permits, if you purchase one item, you'll have the item transaction. the service fee transaction, and the $1.25 transaction that you see on the back end on your bank statement or card statement.
Okay, you said if we pay online, what if, can I pay credit card in person and not
Yes.
incur those fees?
If you pay a credit card in person, you'll still pay the
Still
3.75%,
same
just not the
fees. So
$1.25.
it's anytime you use a credit card.
Yep.
Okay.
Any card transaction.
So the $1.25 fee only comes into play if the person goes online to make the transaction.
Yeah, if they go through our online,
Any other way, that charge doesn't show up.
the online payment portal and IVR, which is the automated phone system. So either the online portal or over the phone using the automated system. Is that additional $1.25?
So
That's
even
how
if you pull from your bank account, it would still be $1.25.
it'd be the $25, say it's a permit, $25 permit,
Sure.
the $2.50 fee, and then $1.25.
Okay.
You'll see a separate.
So an ACH transaction is going to get the $1.25 hit?
No, it's just credit cards.
Oh, okay.
These are just, sorry if I missed.
Okay,
saying that.
okay.
These are
That
just,
wasn't
this,
quite what you were asking, was it?
all of these only
I was
pertain to card
asking
payments.
because it just says CC up there. It doesn't say CCTP fee. So I thought the technology fee was going to be there regardless of how you did it.
No.
You're saying that's not true.
It's just for the online portal or over the phone. Yep. With paying with the card.
Okay, online with the card.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So if a person calls up on the phone, and says, I want to pay my bill
Mhm.
over the phone, then they're going to get charged that TP fee.
Mhm. Yep.
If they're paying with card.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the voice phone, not a clerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an automatic phone answering.
So
Yes.
that's,
Go
ahead.
Are you continuing your presentation? I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm in support of this. I couldn't believe how much the fees were. And I think a lot of people will switch over, and I don't think anything else makes sense. We need to implement this service fee for credit card users. And some people are going to complain. I mean, I was at the DMV last week and the fee turned out to be like 7.5%. And I put my American Express away and gave them cash. And, you know, it costs us, and we have to pass that on to those who are doing it. So.
Okay. Next module is rec. Currently, we are on the service fee model. That was how our original contract was set up. So it is that 3.75% for any in-person card payments. If anyone pays online or over the phone for a rec activity, it'd be the 3.75% plus the $1.25 for that one. It's not on this quote, but we can get one for an absorb estimate for rec. I'm just estimating this based on our absorbed utility rates. Probably around the 2% mark with the 0.5% interchange fees, et cetera. I only put this one up here because with the rec, we have, you know, the pool, the rec center. If someone goes to the pool and they buy $1 pack of Skittles, they're going to be getting charged, you know, $2.50 as a minimum fee on top of that. This is the kind of scenario where we need some feedback on if we want to go ahead and absorb the rec, which ultimately is about, you know, $4,000 a year out of all year long, or go ahead and stay on this service fee model, and because they're going to be utilizing those minimum fee amounts a lot during those transactions.
And my only, Barry and I, and little kids, sometimes moms just give a credit card to their kid, go to the pool. And that would be my only example of the difference between you yourself going online, paying your utility bill versus that sort of thing. However, you do it once, maybe people carry cash more.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
both.
We have the ability to take cash at the pool, right?
Yes.
So there's no reason that they'd have to use a credit card to buy the Skittles or whatever they're buying, right? Okay.
Only thing I would suggest is to take a credit card at the pool, because that cash only pool is really tough to run in the summer. We've learned that lesson over the last since I've been, for the first 5 years I was here, and finally I budged.
And you said rec and pool combined is only $4,000 a year right now in credit card fees.
Total revenues for the rec is about 160 to 170,000. So maybe 3,400 at a 2% rate for the year. And that's 100% of transactions. So if only half of those are credit cards, then we're looking at half that as a processing fee.
Can we do a prepaid card for the pool? You knew that was coming, didn't you?
I know Brian's, I don't know if I say this, I know Brian's looking into like a punch card for like day passes. So for the rec center, but I think they're working it out with the Tyler guys right now but I don't know if I should have said that, Barry. Did we X that idea? Or I know he mentioned it, but we're looking at alternative ways of helping.
I bought my mother a gift certificate to a car wash. And every time she went in there, they just subtracted and wrote what her new balance was on the back of the gift certificate. That's got to be easier than taking a credit card from a 5-year-old who we shouldn't be taking it from in the first place. I mean, they're not old enough to incur debt. So if
On this one, does it make sense to restructure the fees so that we just cover the 4,000 and it's just spread across all charges? I know you mentioned that earlier as an option. Does that make any sense on this service fee model?
The amount of transactions we do and the total volume of transactions we do, it's not a big liability for the city on this one, honestly. But ultimately, it is up to the council to decide if we want to pay a little bit or nothing at all.
I would just vote for being consistent. We either charge everybody or we don't charge anybody for using a credit card.
Right. On this though, you've got an entry fee that's what, $7, and then you charge them $250. So
Yeah.
33%.
I know.
So I would go with a reconfigure the fees so that you bake this in. So if you normally charge 6, go to 7, and you cover all this in that 7. It's already baked in. A lot of people do that just so they make it, instead of cents, you just have a round number. I mean, they could bake it into their charge, and then we could avoid this for at least the rec, and just kind of bake that in. We're going to charge this much, but it includes, behind the scenes, and they don't have to deal with it. It's just there. I don't know if you can do that.
Except if you do that, you're penalizing all the people that don't pay by credit card.
You alluded to it earlier, but you don't want cash at the pool.
I'd rather not. It's internal control nightmare when it comes to the audit. But if we do want to allow cash, then I mean, we can. We just need to have a lot of procedures in place.
Of absorbing the fee is that it's easier for us to handle.
Especially with the 100% seasonal crew that's working every year in and out. It's going to be constant training each year on controls and cash handling practices and all those things.
I mean, they take cash now. It's just not cash only.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still an option to use cash. It's just.
Yeah. I mean, you have to look into how many people use credit card at these pool, and if it makes sense.
Yeah.
If it's a high number, then a few would be paying a slightly more, but just for
carry cash in your swimsuit.
Yeah, definitely can't be.
It won't damage it.
It won't damage it.
I mean, it
I
probably
remember
won't.
carrying a Ziploc bag with $5 in it to the pool when I was a
used to do
kid.
that.
So
It's probably not enough to be a big difference, right? If you're buying a summer pass or the rec year pass, but yeah, if you did a daily a couple times, that would be like, holy smokes, like just on a single charge. But
I think I would prefer that you go with the service fee, be consistent, and look at these prepayment cards that you can do for folks, so that if they feel that they don't want to have the cash, they can have the prepaid card and go with that. Because the prepaid card, you don't have to run a transaction through the machine. It's already paid, so you just deduct it from the amount that's on the card.
Yeah, maybe a punch card or something.
Yeah, a punch card is a good way of doing it.
You don't have season passes?
you have to have season
We
passes,
do.
pool passes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true.
yeah. There's no season pass on skills.
Yeah, just do a punch card and price all the candy, so it's 1 or 2 punches. And
But that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put extra
Lots of
punches in their
alternatives.
punch card because that's money out of their hand pocket, right?
Okay.
So,
Cover
I
that
think
one.
that's a good way to go. That's all right. Did you have more to talk about?
Sorry, we just have one left. Let's court.
Yeah.
The only difference here is we're already on the service model, and that Tyler Payments online portal or phone fee varies based upon the transaction amount. So anything from a penny to $99.99 is additional $1. Anything above that's additional $2.50. It's the only difference in court, but is already currently set up on this model to pass everything through.
Staff recommends not deviating on court. This is one where we need to keep.
You're doing it now and you want to keep doing it. And you're charging the people for the transaction fee and the percentage, 395. Correct. Almost 4%. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't change it.
The only thing I see it, I don't know why we're charging more if it's over $100, but for the
That's-
transaction fee.
That's the Tyler, the Tyler Payments, Tyler Payments Group.
These are all pass-throughs.
Yeah.
We're not making money on any of these, right?
It's just our cost.
Correct.
Just our cost. Okay. Do you have more screens?
No. Discussion. That's it. Just a quick overview, and really just the big one was really the rec one, what we wanted to do.
So this is a quote. If you approve it tonight, we'll present Tyler. They'll make the changes, and then we'll have to bring back fee schedule of some sort to update for you guys, and then we'll implement. I believe so. I believe we should put it on our fee, or we'll talk about it and go do that.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the quote from Tyler Technologies for Tyler One ERP Pro payments, credit card fees.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Ms. Hamburg. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're on item K,
Very much.
and this is a resolution approving the acceptance of credit cards. Under Kansas statutes 12-16, 125 allows all Kansas cities to accept credit card payments and recoup a portion of the processing charges issued by card processors. In accordance with the same statute, the resolution would direct city staff to accept credit card for payment of all financial obligations owing to the city. Maria will answer questions if you have any.
And Mr. Mayor, may I make a quick comment?
Certainly.
I put a copy in front of all council members prior to the meeting tonight. I would like to draw your attention to section 1, credit card acceptance. A comment was mentioned to me about considering an additional line about being very assertive of providing any notice of any additional fee to a person using a credit card. Consequently, I added that red line to section 1. So if you want to proceed with that, your motion would be as presented. You've received it tonight. But if you would like to make any changes to this, it would be as amended.
And the reason for that additional sentence there is Maria has quoted the statutes in this resolution verbatim, okay? But I was concerned that we need to be crystal clear that we need to make sure that the client has advance notice that they're going to get this charge before they say, here's my credit card. You say, oh, by the way, here you are, but we have all these fees. I don't want us to go that way. I want it. The fees are for credit cards here. If you want to use a credit card, fine, but you need to make sure that that's done up front before they come with the credit card and get charged.
I agree with that thought. I think our city manager, though, said that when they go to the payment screen, it lists that out as a separate fee before they actually submit the payment.
Correct. It's a
So
separate line. Yeah, just confirm
So
with
it
Barry.
is
Yep.
being done. It's just
If
not
it's online.
blatant.
If it's online,
If
but
it's
what if they
online.
walk up to the utility clerk and say, here's my credit card, pay my bill?
There'll be ample signs, and also our clerks will be trained to make sure they know. And
And that's the purpose of this.
correct.
So, and back to what I say, I am very certain you will do a very good job of
Yeah,
training everybody to
exactly.
make sure they do this. But time goes on and another person says, we don't need to do that. Well, we do need to do it. The resolution says to do it. Okay.
And the one good thing, I think the public is pretty trained on this, and that any business, most governments in the area have some sort of service fee. And so we'll.
True.
Mhm.
Now we'll be putting those signs at the pool too.
Right.
Make
Not
sure
in
they're
the pool.
waterproof.
Okay.
I'm good with, I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the acceptance of credit cards as a means to pay city obligations as amended in red and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Dean. Any additional discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say something. I mean, when you look at those numbers, it's been said several times. I mean, we've been eating this cost, and I mean, just talking tonight at some of the mill and overlay costs and the ceiling and some of the stuff we're looking at doing, and that road that we replaced, that was $100,000. We just can't keep doing this. And citizens want to see progress on the road. Citizens want to see other amenities added, and this is a way we can try to start doing some more with less. So.
I was thinking the exact same thought. That pays for Stratford from
Right.
credit card fees.
Yeah.
More than pays for it.
More than pays for it.
So anyway, just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good comment. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? If none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Move on to item L. So resolution support preservation of tax exempt financing. So I'll just tell you briefly, I ran across that there's some discussion in Congress in Washington, D.C. to eliminate the tax exemption of municipal bonds. And it's part of their budget reconciliation discussion that they're trying to get pushed through before June. There are several cities have already opposed this. I had a discussion with Roman Rodriguez, who worked for Ron Estes on Saturday, and he said there's already several folks who've already talked with them about this very issue, but this would be detrimental to bonds. Talking about local governments spend about $800 billion in interest cost, and this would just kill all of that. Because that tax exemption makes those bonds much more marketable. So this resolution is to support not canceling the tax exemption of bonds. And so we will, if this is approved, we will send this to Congressman Estes and Senator Marshall and Senator Moran so that they can they know that we don't support this. I don't imagine they would support it anyway, but we want to make sure they give them all the ammunition we can.
I can't believe it even got brought up as an idea, because it's not just cities and states that issue tax exempt bonds. Hospitals, nursing homes, other places, the airport, the Wichita airport has tax exempt bonds. So,
yeah,
and it would just increase the cost for a large portion of the economy if that ever got passed.
Yeah. My concern is, and this is no fault of any particular Congress, but we've seen Congress do some really airhead things in the past. And I want this to be on record. We don't want them doing that here. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I'm not arguing against the resolution at all. I'm just saying, I think it's really stupid they even brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, I figured I would be in the minority on this one. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna support this. I can see in the microcosm of Bel Aire why we would oppose this, but this kind of goes back to our discussion 3 years ago about Catholic care and kind of putting your thumb on the meter of not having an even playing field. They're private schools, they're private hospitals like Wesley and things like that. So it's late. I'm not going to give a 5-minute rant. I'm just opposed to it. So thanks.
I'm going to point out Wesley issues tax exempt bonds. It's not just religious ones.
Okay. If there's any other discussion, or will entertain a motion? We'll go.
I motion to adopt a resolution in support of the preservation of tax exempt financing as presented. Authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
3
so
to
I have
2.
3 ayes and 2 nays. Okay. Mr. David and Ms. Hamburg, right?
Correct.
And that motion carries 3-0, 3-2.
3-2.
Okay. So no reason for an executive session, so discussion of future issues. Workshop on May 13th at 7 PM. I don't think we have anything to talk about.
Yeah, everybody bring your sleeping bag. Comp plan, future uses, the last element of our comp plan, and then water policy. So it's going to be a fun one, everybody. Yeah, updating our whole water policy code.
Okay.
Really clarifying it.
Is that a part of the comp plan or a separate topic?
Separate.
Okay.
Yep. It hasn't been updated since 2015.
All right. Any other things we need to discuss? Future issues?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Ms. Hamburg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Too bad. Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned.